Hi, welcome to my Tamiya Frog re-release kit assembly videos. I've never built this kit before, so I may or may not make some mistakes. I built a number of grasshoppers, hornets, had a falcon back in the day, helped a buddy do a wild one, but I always wanted a frog, and um, last week I bought my son, 8-year-old son, a grasshopper, and thought it might be fun if I had one too so we could race together. So as I started to build this, I thought, well, maybe I should take some pictures and do a quick instructional video because there weren't a ton of instructional videos that I could see on YouTube. So I'm going to break it up into chunks because I'm not going to sit down and just build this whole thing in one shot. So this first chunk is going to cover steps 1 through 6 in the instruction manual, which essentially is building the chassis and front suspension. So this is what the kit looks like when you break it all apart. We've got the chassis bits here, the wheels and rims over here. The electronic speed control that comes with the re-release is here. Front bumper, we've got some of the suspension and drivetrain components over here. The driver model, some more components down here. They're labeled V tree. There are 2 of them in the bag. We've got the B tree and some more bits over here. And then the plethora of unlabeled bags. And sometimes there are bags within bags. None of these have labels. And then there's the A through D bags here, which are all the nuts and screws and washers. These are the tools that I use. I've got a jeweler set screwdrivers. Basically, I need the Phillips head jeweler set screwdriver for primarily putting together the wheels and rims, but possibly other things too. I got a 4-in-1 screwdriver here, a pair of needle nose pliers, non-side cutter needle nose, very fine tip needle nose, a screw retriever, works kind of like a syringe. You push in the end, a little claw comes out, and that way you can grab screws if they drop into difficult to reach places. This is a pair of Tamiya snips. The side cutters here, I tried using when I built the grasshopper last week, just a pair of regular old side cutters. But I found that they were having a really difficult time getting in between the tree and the part itself, and ended up having to use this X-Acto knife here. It's a Tester's X-Acto knife. So I went ahead and got this Tamiya side cutter kit here, and it's amazing how much better these things are. They're like 34 bucks on Amazon, but they are so worth it. I just can't tell you how wonderful it is to use these to build with. So here's step 1, the chassis, and like I said, this was sort of an afterthought, so I'd already put together step 1 when I thought to take some pictures. So this is what the chassis looks like. Essentially, we've got these 2 major left and right space frame components off the A-tree. Now, I did install this H1 front bracket upside down, and I'll realize it as I get farther into the build, and then I'll have to disassemble the chassis completely so I can flip it over. So for the time being, know that this isn't upside down, because if you look at the picture, that's how it looks. But I had the chassis flipped over. So you see I've got, in this picture, the chassis is upside down, and I have it right side up. So when I installed this front bit H1, I went ahead and installed it upside down. So we've got this bracket here, which is just in with friction. There's a tiny little tab that this clip kind of slides into. It's very firm. When you insert it, you'll need to exert some force to get it to go in. Notice that the frame is curved, as is this, so that's how you know you've got it right side up. And this is the front servo plate. Then here's the back servo bracket here. It is only in by friction as well. There is no alignment mark, and I believe that's probably so you can slide this up and down depending on the width of your servos that you're going to use. This is a metal tube. Here it is. This tube right here on the diagram. I can't see what that number is, but it's just this metal tube, and then screws go into it and tighten it up. And then there's this double black plastic sort of thing that screws into here and here that makes up the bottom section of the chassis. So that's the chassis. So then I got a little bit more forethought involved. I'm like, well, if I'm going to do this, maybe they'll want to see what parts that I'm using. So because I don't know about you, but I find sometimes it difficult to determine what parts are in the bags, especially like things like this MR, which are in an unlabeled bag. So a B for those of you that don't know, I think this is what this stands for. B is a bag, right? So this is bag B, number 5, bag C, number 7, and then this is mechanical part 2, mechanical part 3. I think that's what the MP stands for, is mechanical part. At any rate, so bag D5 for these nuts for this step. All right, so we've got these two MP1s. They're kind of like a star washer, and then we've got these two self-locking nuts down here, a couple of hex head screws, and a couple of lock washers, and then we've got the steering bar parts. And these will then go together to create the front arms. So this is kind of how I ended up putting the thing together, because you kind of need 3 hands. So the first thing I did was I got my hex Allen wrench and put the screw on it, and then drop this part on, then drop the, whoops, go back, so I got the hex Allen wrench, put the screw on it, put the steering part on, got the star washer, then got this part on, and then I put the locking nut into the 4-way jobber here, and then I put it on, and then I flipped it all upside down so that this was resting on the table and I could hold it. It's a little bit of a pain in the butt, but once you get the maneuver down, it's pretty easy. The real trick, though, is to make sure that this and this are at an exact 90-degree angle. So when you look, these things have to go exact 90 degrees, because if you don't, what you're going to end up with is your steering knuckle is going to be angled, and when you make turns and stuff, you're not going to get the traction that you deserve. You can adjust it by loosening this up, and then you can adjust that out, but it's going to get buried here pretty soon, so it's going to become a very big pain to get to. But this is what they look like when they're done. So you've got these two that are facing this direction, and the steering knuckle should angle backwards if you've got them set up for left and right. And that's what the picture shows. So here's step 3, and I've got the parts laid out. So I'm finally getting into a groove here with this. So I decided to put the parts onto this, because a lot of people don't know that these are actually silhouettes, where you can take the piece and you can put it down on top to make sure you're getting the right one, and that the dark color screw is actually a dark color screw. A white colored screw is a silver color screw, those kind of things. So we've got these parts here, and we've got the 2 steering knuckles. What do they call them? Uprights. Okay, we've got the 2 uprights, and then we've got the suspension bits, the upper and lower suspension arm. Now, my advice is do not remove the suspension arms from the trees 1, 2, 3, 4, and then try to figure out what they are. It's going to be a pain in the butt. They're very similar, but they're slightly different. So the H3, right, is an upper arm, and the H2 is a lower arm, and the way that these little bits here are designed are different. So some of them, one of them has an angle and one of them is straight. So that's how you can tell the difference if you have gone ahead and removed them. But you need to follow this instruction very carefully and make sure that they're going in the right way, because these little arms are what are going to actuate your suspension. So this is what they look like when they're all together. So as you can see, when they get put together, we've got the bolt going through with a lock nut, and then we have the arm here in the front, and the steering knuckle is here. And the way that these things work is when it moves up, it pushes this lever in, which then will push against this in the next step. So this is how you want them to look. This one is turned forward and this one is turned back, so you can get a good idea of how that should look. So if you set them up one left and one right, they should look like this, and then when you move these out straight, these arms should go backwards. All right, step 4. So we've got these bolts, some springs, the suspension stay, these little nipple-looking things here, plastic nipple-looking things, and some anti-wear grease. So the difference between this grease and the ceramic grease is this looks like it has some silver or some metal or something infused with the grease, and it's a much thicker grease than the white stuff in the tube. So make sure you're using the stuff where it's supposed to be used. So this is what it looks like in the front. Okay, I still got my thing upside down, so don't pay attention to that. But the spring goes in this tube, okay, and, well, I guess I didn't take another picture. And then the white nipple plasticky thing goes into it. And the way the instructions show is that they want you to put grease around the collar part of the nipple. Okay, put grease around the collar part. Well, that didn't really work so well for me, because I thought what would work better is I took a Q-tip and I put a light coating all inside this tube, as well as a light coating on the little the ridge here, as you see in the picture, the ridge. Okay, so that's my recommendation, is to put a little bit inside the tube here as well as on the nipple. And then when you get it all put together, it looks like this. So what happens is this little nipply thing pokes through the hole in this vertical stay, and these two screws go into the plastic upper and lower. So we've got these three tubes in the front. The top tube is for screws, the middle tube is for springs, and the bottom tube is for screws, and that's what holds the whole entire front together, are those four screws going into the chassis like this. So here's my little tip from me to you. When you're attaching the suspension, all right, you put the nut, the self-locking nut, on the back, and that's how they have this design. But I had a hard time with the little wrench that they give you not fitting, so I ended up using pliers. You're probably better off if you have a wrench set, like a real wrench set. I don't know what size these are. They're freaking small, maybe a 5mm or something, 4mm. They're wicked small, whatever they are. If you want to do it right, I'd recommend finding whatever size this is and getting an actual wrench and using a wrench. The pliers worked, but you slip once and you're going to strip your nut. You're at least going to put teeth mark on it and stuff like that. So, step 6, attaching the front bumper. This is what all the screws layout look like. These are in the lettered bags, and then this is an unlettered bag. This is what it looks like when it's all together. And that's when I finally realized, hey, dumbass, you got this front bit in upside down. So what I had to do was completely remove this side of the suspension. I had to completely unscrew the whole entire side of the chassis, pull the chassis part out, flip this upside down, and then put it all back together again. So don't do that. Make sure from the get-go you have this guy's facing right side up, because you need this pointing up, because that's where the front mount goes. See, it screws into here. All right, so basically what we've got are the front stabilizer arms, or whatever these guys are. They get screwed down into here. Damn it. You click it and it goes forward. So that keeps the suspension not being pushed back. All right, and this is what the whole front thing looks like. So we've got the carbon fiber reinforcing thing installed. We've got the front bumper installed. There are 3 screws that hold all that mess together, and then we've got these things screwed and this screws down. So my little tip for installing this MR13 is use your fingers, right, and the 4-way wrench thing to keep this perfectly straight up and down when you first start threading, and go slow, and it'll bite in, and once it gets bit, you can take it off and you can take a look at it to make sure it's in perfectly vertically. As long as it's in perfectly vertically, then you're good to go. So that's pretty much it. In the next video, what I'm going to cover is all of these steps that are in step 7 to 13. So I hope this helps any of you guys out there who are building a frog for the first time like I am. And if you've got any tips that I may have missed, go ahead and put those in the comments to help other people out. So thanks for watching, and look forward to the next episode.